Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Inshallah, today we will start our class, prerequisite course. The course is Fiqh Muamalat. Fiqh Muamalat. So as an introduction, what is Muamalat? Muamalat refers to commercial acts or commercial dealings. Muamala. And in this class, it refers to any commercial or business acts or business dealings under Sharia, under Islamic law. So we can say muamalat are acts involving interaction. So when we talk about muamalat, it means interaction. Interaction and exchange among people. So it can be anything. It can be any interaction and exchange. But for the purpose of this class, we talk about muamalat al-maliyah. Muamalat al-maliyah means interaction or exchange among people in related to assets. Maliyah means in related to sales of any items or any merchandise. So muamalat are acts involving interaction when dealing with the exchange of goods and services in business. So in the field of muamalat, there is considerable room to develop and change the law. So in research, the scholars, the faqih, the scholars in the field of fiqh muamalat always try to do research because of the changing situations in the world. So now we are having, after the COVID-19, now the post-COVID-19, there are new kinds of business, e-commerce, e-wallet, there are new kinds of business. And we are now heading towards the, what we call the e-commerce, right? Involving IT, involving, we are now in the technology revolution, IR 4.0. So it's a field that keeps changing, and the issues have been researched and studied from time to time. So the dynamic of fiqh muamalat is its importance is not static. It's a dynamic, and there are many decisions. There are many new fatwas that have been offered. There are pros and cons. The pros are some of these fatwas can solve the problems that have arisen, but the cons are the general public sometimes are confused. Which one we want to, which fatwa, which decisions we want to follow. All right, so we will talk about it towards the end of this workshop today, inshallah. So muamalat covers all human actions. Whatever we do, we cannot run away from muamalat. Every day we go shopping, um, involving the exchange of goods and services, exchange of merchandise, and now there are physical shops and there are virtual shops. So muamalat covers all human actions and concern. Muamalat concerns with human relation to another. Hablu minan nas. So in Sharia, we have two broad scopes. One is concerns with specific ibadah, hablu minallah, prayer, fasting in the month of Ramadan, and other specific ibadah. So that's called hablu minallah. And then another one is regarding muamalat, regarding munakahat, regarding jinayat. So that kind of muamalat is part of hablu minan nas, interactions among humans. So for us, we are concerned with muamalat that covers the exchange of goods and also the financing. Yeah, and now there are other areas such as zakat, waqaf, also are included in the muamalat, because although, for example, zakat and waqaf are part of ibadah, specific ibadah, but it has the consequence, it has the economic consequence, it has the wealth distribution consequence. Therefore, it's also part of the muamalat and Islamic finance. Okay, so that's the meaning of muamalat, interactions and exchange among people. Okay. Any questions you can ask me anytime. Otherwise, this class will be boring. All right. Papa Prayogi, what's your question?
Insyaallah belum, Prof.
Belum lagi. So I was asked to conduct this workshop in English. Is it okay for everyone? I use very simple English. Not American English.
Okay, doctor, okay.
Not
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Prof.
I'm okay.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so shall we continue?
Prof, can I ask?
Sure. You can
Yeah.
ask anything except money. You cannot ask money from me.
Yeah, this is just, to make alive, the session, like you said. And, otherwise, just listening, sleeping, boring. Okay, it's very simple question, Prof. When we want to deal, with someone who doesn't Muslim, but we are Muslim, and we have to follow our rule, because muamalah has to be, follow with the Islamic rule, but the other one is not a Muslim, so that the transaction maybe have something, how to make them understand, like riba, for example, the bank is actually non-Muslim, for example, I'm a Muslim. I want to lend the money or So how can we adapt with this kind of hello? Can you close? I ask to Prof. Yusuf. That's my question, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Tuti, for the question. We will cover and answer that question towards the end of the workshop. But
Yeah, okay.
for now, what I want to say is it is our job to understand Fiqh Muamalat because we are dealing with not only non-Muslims, but also Muslims who do not understand, right? So I always say to my students to learn and understand this Fiqh Muamalat because it's very important because it covers, what we do every day. Every day we are dealing with interactions among Muslims and non-Muslims. So it's our job to understand and also to disseminate the information. So
Prof,
fortunately,
Prof, I have a question.
Sure,
Yeah,
Mr. Masih, go ahead.
Prof, as you mentioned just now that Muamalat is very dynamic, right? So we need ongoing research. There might be many new innovations or new problem arising in Muslim business world. But on the other hand, we have what we call the orthodox ruling or understanding about muamalat, which is it cause a problem for Muslim as well.
True.
Even though we have a contemporary, updated or better ruling in Fiqh Muamalat, but yet many Muslim did not what we call understand, did not agree upon the new contemporary ruling of Fiqh Muamalat. So how are we going to solve this issue, Prof?
Very good question. So, like I said, the general public sometimes are confused because they don't know who to follow. So, towards the end of this workshop, later on, we will talk about the authority regarding the decisions in Fiqh Muamalat. So for now, I would say that the highest authority when it comes to Islamic finance and muamalat is in Malaysia is the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia. That's the highest authority. So like Encik Masri mentioned, sometimes the general public are confused. This Mufti, for example, says one thing, and the other Mufti says another thing. So the fatwa by Mufti and fatwa by the National Fatwa Council, Majlis Mufti Kebangsaan, is actually subordinate to the rulings by the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia. So what we should follow in matters related to Islamic finance and muamalat is the rulings by Sharia Advisory Council in Malaysia. However, in the larger context of global Islamic finance, the highest authority is the IOF. So We will talk about it later. The most important for us to understand is in the matters related to muamalat in Islamic finance, we should follow the highest authority. And sometimes, I view and I watch YouTube by some people, who claim that they have the authority, but what they say contradicts the rulings by Sharia Advisory Council. So that's the cons during this internet world, because there are many opinions put forward by so-called scholars that make general public confused. But we, as a student of Islamic finance, that's why we need to have strong background, or at least we know certain basic principles in Fiqh Muamalat, so that we can differentiate what is right and what is wrong, and who to follow. Let me mention here that the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia in Malaysia, when they make a ruling, they consider all the madhabs, right? So we have 4 major madhabs: Maliki, Hanbali, Maliki, Hanbali, Shafi'i, what's the other?
Hanafi. Hanafi.
Mengantuk, lupa. So that's the 4 major madhabs that that exist, right? There are other madhabs also, but that's the 4 major madhabs or school of thoughts. In making the rulings, the Sharia Advisory Council consider all the opinions of the major madhabs, and they make decisions and choose the best that satisfies the maslahah, that brings the best maslahah and the most practical. So we, in the context of muamalat and Islamic finance, I would say that we are not restricted to any one particular madhabs or school of thoughts. The Sharia Advisory Council always look at the opinions of the 4 major madhabs and take the best, that is the most practical, and decisions that bring the maximum maslahah. Okay, so that's for now. We will cover that. This is just the first slide. We have 18 slides, and we have another 30 slides. Okay, so we finish with muamalat, and then fiqh. So fiqh muamalat, al-fiqh al-muamalat. So there are two terms. One is muamalat, and the other one is fiqh. So the term fiqh comes from an Arabic word, which literally means understanding. Faqqaha yufaqqihu means understanding, profound understanding, or in-depth understanding. According to Imran Khan Nyazi, fiqh is the knowledge of Sharia legal rulings pertaining to conduct derived directly from the specific evidence in the text, means the Quran and the Sunnah. So the primary sources of Sharia are the texts from the Quran and the Sunnah. And some scholars, they say there are other sources, such as ijma, the consensus of the scholars, and also qiyas or analogy. So, and also there are other sources, other secondary sources, such as oh, I forgot. Masalih, Mursala, Uruf, Maqasid, Sharia, and others. So there are many sources, but scholars basically have consensus that the primary sources are the Quran and the Sunnah, and the secondary are ijma, al-ijma, and al-qiyas. Okay, so fiqh is the knowledge of Sharia legal rulings pertaining to the conduct derived directly from specific evidence in the text, the Quran and Sunnah, or extended through reasoning from general prepositions of the Sharia. The ijma, ulama, and also the qiyas. So technical, istilahan, technical, Imam Abu Hanifah defines al-fiqh as one's knowledge of his rights and obligations. So fiqh is one's knowledge about the rights and obligations, what to do, what not to do. This definition gives general meaning, which covers the scope of one's whole system of belief or aqidah, as well as the conduct or the code of conduct as Muslims, or akhlaq, akhlaq Islamiyah, and rules of practices according to Islamic Sharia. So according to Imam Abu Hanifah, al-fiqh is the understanding or the knowledge of one individual about what are the obligations, what are the things that we should do, what are the things that we should avoid. So it covers aqidah, muamalat, interactions, and also the akhlaq. So that is according to Imam Abu Hanifah. However, Imam Shafi'i defines fiqh as the knowledge of the legal rules pertaining to conduct that has been derived from the specific pieces of evidence. So Imam Shafi'i tried to narrow the scope. So it's according to Imam Ash-Shafi'i, fiqh is the knowledge of the legal rules pertaining to conduct, and these legal rules derive from the specific pieces of evidence, either from the Quran or the Hadith or the Sunnah, the Ijma and the Qiyas, and other sources. So in short, Fiqh Muamalat is the knowledge of Sharia ruling in any transaction or contract, aqad, which involves a human relationship with another human, hablu minan nas. So it's the relationship among humans, and also any form of mutual dealings, agreed upon dealing, held between humans to solve their everyday needs, especially relating to trade, business, commerce, as well as the Islamic finance. So it involves everyday activity. Every day we go shopping every day. We need something. We need financing. When we buy cars, we need takaful. So we need the goods and services, right? So that's why the Fiqh Muamalat is very important. Mr. Bapak Shafiuddin, how are you? Mr. Hamza, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Prof. I'm sorry I was late. I just took a nap in my chair. I only found out that I'm late.
It's all right.
The time difference is very tricky.
What time is it in Uganda?
It's 9 a.m.
9 a.m. MashaAllah.
40 minutes past 9 a.m.
Okay. So hopefully you can follow us. I'm
following.
yeah.
Prof. Tak mahu lambat Prof masuk. Ingat 2:30.
Dr. Sufyan, apa khabar? Lama tak jumpa.
Inilah saya tak jumpa Prof. Siap Prof.
Alhamdulillah sihat.
Betul. Masuklah ni, dia ikutlah Profnya Fiqh Muamalat tadi. Tapi lambat sikit dia masuklah.
Tak apa. Saya ni last minute replacement untuk Ustaz Abdul Hadi Yusuf. Dia ada hal yang tertentu.
Ustaz Abdul Hadi dia dah jadi staff Unisham Prof.
Bukan, tapi kita boleh kita lantik dia sebagai kita panggil apa ya? Lupa lah istilah dia. Macam cara jemputan lah macam tu.
One of the lecturer in Unisham lah sekarang ni.
Dia bukan lecturer, dia macam kita jemput secara jemputan.
Okey.
Jadi bila ada keperluan untuk kita jemput dia, kita jemputlah masuk dalam kelas undergraduate dan kelas master dan kelas PhD untuk dia kongsilah tentang topik kepakaran dia. Tapi dia
tengok macam Fiqh Muamalat tu Prof punya bidang ke macam mana? Selalu zakat lah Prof punya bidang, selalu cerita pasal zakat kan.
Saya lebih kepada zakat. Jadi Fiqh Muamalat ni bukan bidang saya. Jadi saya ni orang kata last minute replacement lah.
Okey. Kami ikut je lah.
Saya cuba je lah kan.
Boleh.
Saya bukan pakar lah. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Importance of muamalat. So like I mentioned before, muamalat is very important. Yeah, because every day we have to interact with each other. We interact in terms of sales, we buy and we sell goods. We need finance when we want to buy house, cars, anything. So sometimes we need finance, right? So it concerns our everyday life. So it's very much very important. However, not we during my research, I can conclude that the awareness or the knowledge about Fiqh Muamalat is, I would say, moderate. It is still far from what it should be, even among the Muslims. The knowledge about Fiqh Muamalat is still, I would say, moderate. And to make matters worse, some of them get information from sources that are not the authority in Fiqh Muamalat. So we have to be very careful. So although I'm not an expert in Fiqh Muamalat, I have certificates, So I have certificates in Islamic Review Knowledge. I have the Sijil Tauliah Mengajar Agama. So I kind of have the background in Fiqh Muamalat. So I'm not an expert, Dr. Sufyan. Just have,
Awak siapa boleh sharing kan. Kami pun nak belajar agak semua kan.
yeah. Next session, Ustaz Abdul Hadi will take over. So among the importance of muamalat is to create a society that is safe and prosperous from Islamic point of view. So muamalat based on Islamic law creates a peaceful community. So if everybody understands muamalat and deals using the muamalat rulings, follow all the rulings, then inshallah the world will be very peaceful, yeah, free from fraud. Imagine if the world is free from fraud, tak ada penipuan, Dr. Sufyan. Imagine kalau macam itu, dunia ni aman lah. Kalau
Tak perlu mahkamah kot kan.
tak perlu mahkamah. Ya, kalau semua orang jujur kan, there is no fraud, no extortion. So fiqh muamalat ni dia concern with justice, yeah? Concerns with honesty. So we will talk about it later. So if we follow muamalat, we will be living in a peaceful world without any fraud, without any extortion, without any oppression or injustice, without any manipulation, al-ikhtiqar, without any manipulation, and so on. So that is the aim of muamalat. So it is the aim of muamalat in Islam for the maslahah, or for the welfare of humankind. So now we talk about maqasid syariah that brings about the maslahah. There are many studies now that discuss the muamalat not only in terms of halal and haram, but also in terms of bringing out the maximum maslahah following the maqasid syariah. There are 5 maqasid syariah: hifzul din, hifzul mal, hifzul aqd, hifzul nas, hifzul ada 5. There are 5 necessities in maqasid syariah. But now there are research and there are scholars who have proposed that in light of the new development, in light of the new technologies, our economy is now moving towards IR 4.0. The maqasid syariah to be extended. Instead of 5, maybe it can cover more than 5 necessities. So the field of Islamic finance, the field of fiqh muamalat is expanding and is dynamic. Even for myself to do the research, I find that it is very challenging. It's time consuming, not to do research, even to follow the trend, the development in maqasid syariah. Even that is time consuming and tiring. All right. So Islam has forbidden its people to do evil deeds. So that's the spirit of maqasid syariah. That is to forbid or prevent people from doing evil deeds. So in Islam, we must do the ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar. To enjoin in doing goods and to forbid from doing evil deeds. If but the studies have shown, there is still a big gap. In theory, we can say, okay, do what is right and avoid what is evil, right? It's easier said than done, Dr. Sufyan. In reality, people still engage in doing evil things, So that is the struggle of people in the field of muamalat and Islamic finance, like all of us. So all of us are in the field of muamalat and Islamic finance. Either you are master's student, masters in Islamic banking and finance, or PhD students. Yeah? You are pursuing PhD in Islamic finance, right? So this is our field, and it is our job to understand the muamalat and the Islamic finance, so that we can be. I always say to my students, you can be da'i in small way. You don't have to be a big celebrity. If you can be that is great. Even I cannot be. So I do my part in a small way, to tell people to do what is right and to avoid what is wrong. Let me tell you a story. One day I went to a takaful and insurance company to renew the takaful for my car, right? And I met this one quite an old person. I call him Pak Cik. Okay, Pak Cik. This person took insurance for his motorbike. Instead of takaful, he subscribed to insurance. So I said, Pak Cik, why didn't you take takaful? I spoke in Bahasa. I translate in English. Why didn't you take takaful instead of insurance? And then his response was, because insurance is faster. If I take takaful, I have to wait 3 or 4 hours to get the certificate. But if I take insurance, I can get on the spot. I said, Pak Cik, actually, insurance is not Sharia compliant. In other words, it's haram. Okay. If you have to wait for 3 or 4 hours, is worth it, So I said, oh, my other friends also took insurance. Many Malays will take insurance also. So it gives me the impression that, the knowledge about what is halal and what is haram regarding Islamic finance, regarding muamalat, is still moderate, meaning there are still many people, common people, that do not understand. Yeah. Okay. So muamalat also teaches us to cooperate in Islam. So like the concept of takaful, where the concept is cooperation. The ta'awanu 'alal birri wat taqwa wa la ta'awanu 'alal ithmi wal 'udwan. The concept of cooperation in doing al-bir, something that is good deeds, and taqwa, wa la ta'awanu 'alal ithmi wal 'udwan. So Muamalat teaches us the concept of helping each other, cooperate. So it can give birth to noble human beings in carrying out a message of Allah. Muamalat also enhances the economic position and the Muslim community to a higher level. So what's if I ask you, what's the difference between conventional and Islamic economics, for example? The conventional selling and buying, and the Islamic concept of sales. Anybody? I like to ask questions. Anybody who wants to try? What's the difference between the Islamic and conventional concepts in regards to sales or in regards to
Yeah, Prof. Me, Prof.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The conventional, this is for example bank, yeah, because this is my thesis. They apply the practice is not follow the Muslim. You know, like, you know, they don't care about riba, they don't care about, we call it here bagi hasil, yeah, as what's it, profit, yeah, and you know the deal also, you know, they do not look at our rule, so they just general practice in the business, while muamalat, like here very clearly, you know, the comparison is bank syariah. They have to follow, you know, the rule of Islamic. They don't play riba, they don't, you know, give a goror, etc. So it's very clear. So the Muslim actually has to know the difference between the practice of conventional and syariah. So muamalah has to be syariah, not only syariah, yeah, but has to be syariah. The problem here, you know, even though we are here Indonesian, you know, majority is Muslim, but not many people, you know, join the Syariah bank. This is because what you say, you know, it needs someone who transfer, educate, you know, about the rule of muamalah. That's what I, you know, try to, you know, answer your question, the difference between muamalah and conventional. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Tuti. Very good answer. Anybody else want to jump in? Dr. Sufran, jump in.
Okay. My fellow friends, maybe my opponent is not so deep in this particular area, but I try. When we compare the Muslim economic or Islamic economics and non-Muslim economic, maybe in terms of injustice, I mean that we try to prevent monopoly with an
Dr. Sofyan, your voice.
We cannot hear you.
Oh, okay. Minta maaf. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think for the Islamic economies, okay, we need to make sure it is justice. There is no monopoly or monopolize. Okay, there is no any fraud ataupun like what the one of our friends said about that. We need to clear from gharar or something is not clear. Okay, but I would like to bring our discussion a little bit on, for example, now our BLR or base lending rate. If you want to buy a vehicle in Malaysia, the base lending rate is changing, keep changing now in Malaysia in current situation. So for Islamic finance and community, we should make it clear to our customer. Meanwhile, sometimes in non-Islamic banking, there is a term that they can change it so that sometimes the customer is not so clear about how they make the changes. I think that is from my view. Maybe Prof is better in this term. Maybe that seems that from Islamic community that we must be clear. There is no any fraud or no unclear terms. Okay, to make sure what we're doing is more on why we are doing the economics. Okay, it's mean that we want to help each other. We want to follow our akidah. In this morning, we learn about akidah, why we are doing the Islamic finance, which is we want to help each other. And the most important thing is we want to worship Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. I think that is the main point. Maybe Prof have more better answer because I'm not in this particular area. Okay, hopefully our friend also can add more. Like Mr. Namuga Hamzah, maybe you have more idea maybe on this, or Mr. Irada, Mr. Ibu Susi or Ibu Titi. Very good from Ibu Titi just now. Okay.
Mr. Hamza, anything you want to add? Are you with us? Thank you, Dr. Sufyan. Very good answer.
Atin?
So from my point of view, the main difference is the conventional involves the positive analysis, right? Positive analysis refers
Bu Atin? Mana Bu Atin?
positive analysis.
Anggo ning Malang. Iki apa matur aku kira
Okay, I have to mute. When I speak, I have to mute. Okay, let me repeat. So the conventional economics or conventional business or even conventional finance involves a positive analysis, which means that it concerns with what actually happens, what it is, yeah? What it is. For example, in economics, we say the price, right? The price is determined in the market by supply and demand, right? So when demand increases, supply doesn't change, the price will increase. So that is conventional, right? So so what's the difference? So my answer is the Islamic economics, muamalat, yeah, Islamic finance has to do with the normative analysis, yeah. Normative analysis means what it should be. So what it should be is in muamalat, in Islamic finance, in Islamic economic, we should follow Sharia. We should follow Sharia. So the key word, the main difference is muamalat is Sharia compliant. The conventional may not be Sharia compliant. So that is the main difference. So in muamalat, we have to follow Sharia. When we talk about Sharia, we're talking about the teachings in the Quran, the Sunnah, Ijma, and also Qiyas, and other secondary sources. So that's the main difference. Conventional separates itself from religion, right? So the purpose of, for example, in economic agents, the purpose of an individual when they buy something is to maximize utility, right? To maximize utility. So in Islam, when we buy something, it's not just to maximize utility, right? But also, the most important, we have to do according to the Sharia. We have to comply with Sharia. We have to know what is permissible, what's not permissible. And now, in the future, we're talking about muamalat, which brings the maximum maslahah. It's not utility, it's maslahah. So because of the time constraint, I have to continue. 18 more slides to go. So we cannot discuss in detail, although I would like to discuss. All right. So we continue, inshallah. Where are we? We are just in the third slide, a fourth slide. Okay. Muamalat also enhances the economic position and the Muslim community to a higher level. How? Because Muamalat promotes justice, it promotes integrity, it promotes honesty. So it can bring to a stable economic situation. And Islam will be respected by other religions. We can see now that even non-Muslims are beginning to accept Islamic finance, right? Some of them are beginning to accept the takaful and some other Islamic products. So Muamalat can also strengthen the relationship between Muslims and the non-Muslims. We must show that the Muamalat, according to Islam, will benefit them, because non-Muslims, they don't care as long as something that brings benefit to them. For example, if there are Islamic finance products that can benefit them, they have no trouble to adapt and to accept. All right. The rules that Muamalat sets are the rules that are of great concern to human beings. If there is no regulation, right? If there is no regulation, if there is no rules, then people will do everything to gain wealth. They will manipulate. So with proper rules, proper divine rules, adapt and adopt from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and from other secondary sources, then following the rules, will benefit the people, will bring maslahah to the people. That's why we need to prove that. We need to show to the people that if we are Sharia compliant, it will benefit us. It will bring the maximum maslahah to Muslims and also non-Muslims. So Muamalat can create a community that works together, help each other for the common good, for the maslahah, and for the well-being. Basic principles in Muamalat. There are several basic principles that we have to follow in Muamalat and also in Islamic finance. The primary sources of Sharia law are the Quran and the Sunnah. And also, like I said, the secondary sources, Ijma and Qiyas, and other secondary sources. And based on these sources, the scholars have come up with principles in Muamalat. So these are the basic principles in Muamalat. Permissibility as a general rule. Al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. Al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. Permissibility as a general rule. What does it mean? In this principle, all transactions, all muamalah are permissible. Ibaha. Al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. Asas pada segala sesuatu adalah harus. So in muamalah, if somebody asks us, is this haram or halal? We say it is halal, unless unless there are evidence from the Quran, from the Sunnah, or other sources that says otherwise. So the basic is everything is halal in muamalat. Okay, al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. The basic in everything is permissible. Okay, so all transactions are allowed, permissible in Islam until they are prohibited or banned. Until we have the proof from the text, Al-Quran or Hadith or other sources that says it is haram. If there are other sources, if we can prove that it is haram, then it is haram. If not, it is halal. Okay. So that's the first rule. Al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. Okay. Second. Oh, where is it? Sorry. Okay, second.
Ya. Halo, Akbar.
Okay. Somebody's kid want to study about Fiqh Muamalat. Okay. The second principle. Conclusion of contract by mutual consent. Conclusion of contract by mutual consent. So consent is the most crucial requirement. Mutually agreed consent, both parties agree. So conclusion of any akad, either in selling or in finance, yeah, is by mutual agreement. Mutual consent means both parties, all parties involved must agree. So that's the second principle. Consent is the most crucial requirement. Why? To ensure that the akad involved in the buying or in any selling or any financing akad. Okay, so both parties must agree. So that is the second principle. To ensure that the akad is lawful. If one of the parties is enforced or coerced, dipaksa, then the akad is not legal, not lawful. So both parties must agree to accept and sign the akad. Any akad, either in buying and selling or in Islamic finance. Okay, so both parties must agree to accept and sign the contract or the akad. Murabaha, musyarakah, ba'us salam, tawaruk, any akad involved, both parties must do it freely, must not be coerced. Tidak boleh dipaksa, mesti mutually agree. Both parties must agree to accept and sign the contract or the akad that has been made. Contracts or akad must be free from elements of coercion, fraud, misrepresentation, or any unlawful means. So the contracts must be free from any coercion. No party can force or coerce the other party. Must be free from fraud. Yeah? Must be free from misrepresentation. So any products to be involved in the exchange must be the information about saman, about the price, the information about the items, yeah, the items, the goods and services must be fully exposed. Yeah, must be fully exposed. For example, I sell some my car to another party. So the price must be clear, and also the conditions of the car must be clear. So the akad is lawful. Otherwise, it is not. So the contracts must be free from elements of coercion, fraud, misrepresentation, or any unlawful means. If the contract is illegal, then the contract will automatically be cancelled or invalid. So that is the concept in Fiqh Muamalat. If there is misrepresentation, then the contract is invalid and cancelled. Allah says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. Surah An-Nisa, verse 29. O you who believe, devour not your property. La ta'kulu amwalakum. Devour not your property among yourselves by unlawful means. La ta'kulu amwalakum bainakum bil batil. Devour not your property among yourselves by unlawful means. Illa an takuna tijaratan an taradin minkum. Except that it is trading by your mutual consent. Allah says, antaradim minkum, mutual consent. Okay, little bit more before we take a break. Principle number 3, conformity of contract with al-maqasid al-sharia. So now, like I mentioned, there are many studies, there are many scholars who propose that all the aqad in Fiqh Muamalat, in Islamic finance, must conform with the maqasid sharia. Hifzuddin, preservation of religion. Hifzun nafs, preservation of life. Hifzun nasli, Hifzun nasal, preservation of progeny. Hifzul aqal, preservation of intellect, and hifzul mal, preservation of property. So these are the 5 necessities, yeah, in the maqasid sharia. Although right now, like I said, there are scholars who have done studies to include or to expand these 5 necessities to include the current development in Islamic finance. So for now, the 5 preservations guide any transaction or akad or contract to bring maslahah, to maximize the maslahah and the well-being to human life, and to avoid from mafsadah. Mafsadah means, mafsadah is the opposite of maslahah. Mafsadah is something, in bahasa kerosakan, in bahasa mafsadah means kerosakan, something that brings harm to the ummah. Okay, so these preservations help to maximize the maslahah, well-being, and prevent from mafsadah, something that brings harm to the people. Mafsadah means harm. Principle number 4, the principle of the wide circulation of wealth. Under this principle, Islam does not allow riches to hover over rich people because it creates a wide gap between the rich and the poor. Islam is concerned with distributing wealth widely so that the rich people can help the poor people. Thus, it nourishes the bonds of fellow human beings. So in trade, in Islamic finance, we must follow this principle of wide circulation of wealth. For example, if we introduce product, we instead of introducing product for just for the rich people, we must have we must also offer product for the wide variety of people, right? So that all can consume the products, for example. Another example, in today's world, in society, throughout the world, in the US, in Europe, in Arab countries, in Malaysia, Indonesia, we have the minority who are in control of the majority of wealth, right? And the wide majority who are living under poverty, right? So that's why we have the concept of waqaf, the concept of zakat, sadaqah, infaq, so that the wealth, the wealth is circulated. Yeah, the wealth does not just in the small circulation of certain elite group only. And that's a problem with the capitalist system. Yeah, the capitalist system, we can see that small percentage, small percentage of population control the wealth of the nation, right? So in Islam, hopefully, by using this principle of wide circulation of wealth, the wealth is not just in the hands of the few minor elite. Can how do I mute?
Nur Mimi, mic.
Please mute yourself.
Dekat participant tu Prof, participant betul mute all.
Or participant. and then
Participant,
mute
bawah
all,
tu dia tulis
yeah?
mute all.
Okay, mute all. Okay, got it. Lega sikit. All right, the fifth principle is the principle of transparency in commercial dealings. So when we do any commercial dealings, business or Islamic finance, we should follow the principle of transparency. The principle of transparency means that the parties involved in the financial transactions are clear, transparent about all the essential facts, about the price, about the goods or services, including the terms and conditions of their trade. Thus, it avoids all causes of disputes, clashes, or damage to any property. So, for example, you have a car, for example, and then you want to another example. You have a house, right? You have a house, and then for example, you need to fix lights or light bulbs in your house, right? So there are 5 light bulbs that are broken in your house. So you call up the what do you call the electrician? The electrician. Then you say, okay, I need you to fix these 5 light bulbs. You go and buy the light bulbs, right? You go and you fix the light bulb, you replace the light bulb, I will pay. And then you say, how much? And then the electrician said, don't worry, you are my friend. You pay after it's done. And then after everything is done, and then he said, 300 for the 5 light bulbs, 300, including everything. And you say, wow, I don't expect it to be 300. Why you didn't tell me? So that is an example of lack of transparency. So in Islam, it's not allowed. Okay. So when we sell something, the price must be clear, right? The product must be clear. The specification must be clear. Although slight gharar is allowed, because sometimes, you know, for example, back to the example, 5 light bulbs. Okay, 1 light bulb is 10 ringgit, for example, and the labor cost is 10 ringgit, so 20 ringgit per light bulb. Okay, so 5 times 20 is 100. So the total cost of replacing light bulb is 100. But in Islam, for example, if you ask the electrician, it says, okay, 5 light bulb is 50 ringgit. And then 50 ringgit is the labor cost. So it's 100. He comes back. He says, oh, sorry, boss. Now the cost of light bulb has increased from 10 to 12 ringgit. Okay, so you need to add another 10 ringgit. So in Islam, it is okay, the small gharar, because, you know, sometimes the price change, you know. So anyway, so the basic principle is transparency. All the parties must be clear about the financial transactions, the price, the goods and services, the terms and conditions. All right. So last slide before we take a break. Principle number 6. This is the last principle that we cover, although there are many other principles. For this class, we cover the most significant. Justice and fair dealings. Al-Adlu. So the main concept in Islam is Al-Adlu. Justice. Justice means there is no oppression. There is no zulmi. The opposite of al-adlu is al-zulmu. Al-zulmu, oppression. So this principle must exist in all Islamic transactions and contracts because Islam emphasizes justice and al-adlu and fair dealings. Al-adlu wal-ihsan. Al-adlu wal-ihsan. That is the concept in Islam. Justice and fair. Islam prohibited any evil conduct, any zulmun, any oppression, especially the conduct that causes mafsada, that causes the harm in this world and the hereafter. Okay, so I think we take a break. Okay. Are you? So I'm sure you are all very tired and very bored. Yeah, it's very boring. Okay.
Oh, Prof, maybe one question, Prof.
Sure,
So,
sure.
in your explanations about the Fiqh Muamalat and about 6 principle, can we add in our thesis or not? Or
Sure.
it is suitable to include in our thesis?
Sure. It's very much appreciated. We welcome.
Tapi reference dia tak ada lah kan. Tadi tak ada lah kan, kami kena carilah kan maksudnya kan.
I will give you the books.
PDF.
The books. Yeah, I have several references.
Kalau ada tu boleh share, boleh kami include dalam we can include in our thesis.
Boleh. Saya ada slide ni saya buat pun berdasarkan buku-buku Fiqh Muamalat yang tertentu lah. Nanti saya share dia punya reference.
Excuse me, Prof.
Sure.
If we keep ourselves the presentation in PDF and then put it in the Mandalay, then we can cite it, isn't it? I think so. You know, from the PPT you have, and then transfer it to PDF, and then add file into Mendeley, and then your name is there, and we can cite it. And yeah, Prof, bisa, Prof.
I think it's better you follow the original source, because this slide that I made, I just made this slide yesterday. So I followed, I looked at certain books on Fiqh Muamalat, and I have many, and I will share with you.
Okay, then.
It's
Okay, and
better.
so we wait. So then we have to wait. Because I'm not patient to
After
wait.
the class, I will share.
Okay, thanks, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Now I will share the slide first.
Mhm.
Or maybe after the class, I want to take a break. I want to have a coffee. Maybe 15 minutes coffee break. Yeah?
Okay.
Maybe I share with you interesting lecture. So you can take a break and listen if you want. Okay, let me share with you. An excellent lecture on Fiqh Muamalat.
هذا القرآن يوحدنا لطريق الخير يوجهنا الله تعالى.
Can you hear or not?
Dengar boleh, Prof.
Yeah.
Nampak tak nampak? We
Yeah.
can hear but we cannot see.
Okay, let's try again. How about now?
Nampak.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will take a break. You can listen.
طيب الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. To begin,
The voice is missing. I cannot hear the voice, Prof.
Sama Ibu Susi, tak dengar. Memang tak
Yeah.
dengar pun.
Oh,
Memang tak dengar. Jadi kita ambil break sajalah 10 minit lah. Ambil break saja.
yes.
Boleh. Break sajalah 10 minit. Okay.
Dr. Sofyan, how are you? I miss you.
Okay. Long time no see. My friend.
Yeah.
My friend here. Okay, kita break dulu lah 10 minit
Okay,
lah.
okay.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Hello, Prof. I'm not hearing anything. The video is mute.
Yeah, Mr. Namura Hamza. Also, I also did not hear the voice.
I thought you hear him because you're all quiet. I thought it's only you who's not hearing
Everybody
anything.
can hear the voice. So we just
I was
have
even
a
shy to ask. I was even shy to ask. I thought maybe everyone is quiet is hearing.
yeah. There is no voice. Okay.
Hmm.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Is everyone here? Are you still here?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Prof.
yes, Prof.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prof.
Ada, Prof.
So can you hear the lecture or not? The
No, actually, actually
Body
we cannot.
language.
There
The
is no
video
voice,
with no
Prof.
sound.
No sound.
no sound. Masya
Yeah.
Allah. No,
I try to understand from his lip.
nobody told me.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
we write down in the chat.
Oh, you wrote down. I was
Yeah.
having a coffee break. Sorry. I will share. I will share the video in the WhatsApp. Okay.
Yes.
So sorry about that.
But we assume that his lecture was very good because it's very the body language. I can see the charts here.
Can I show it again for like 10 minutes?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes, Prof.
It's very interesting. Sorry about that. Okay.
هذا القرآن
No, can you hear or not?
Yes,
لطريق
now there is
الحق
sound.
يوجهنا الله تعالى أنزله
No video, only the
No
voice.
picture, only sound.
Can you hear the voice or not?
No,
No
nothing.
video.
Can I hear the voice?
طيب الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على
Yeah, the
أشرف
voice.
المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى
Can you hear
آله
the voice or not?
وصحبه أجمعين.
You can hear, but
Yeah.
no,
No
cannot
video,
picture.
Prof.
We all
Can you
know
hear the
that
voice?
our
No video.
deen is divided
No
in two
video.
major parts.
Yeah.
First
Yes,
part is
no video.
Aqidah, and the second.
Suara ada, video tak ada.
So
Suara je.
Aqidah, the main tenets of faith in Aqidah is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His books,
How about now?
messengers,
Now
Oh,
that's
that's
Okay,
good.
okay.
the day of judgment,
Okay, very clear.
belief in angels,
Can you see? Can you
and
hear the voice?
Al-Qadr.
Yes, we
khayrihi.
can hear
These
and
are
we
the
can
main
see
tenets of
the
faith.
video.
There are some other
Thank you, bro.
Okay.
concepts
now we
that we have
listen.
to believe in them, some items that we have to believe in them, like Adab al-Qabr, what will happen in the grave, Jannah and Nar and everything. But those are included in belief in the Day of Judgment. And we have Sharia, which is divided into two main sections. The first section is al-Ibadat, which is acts of worship. And the second section is called al-Muamalat. And in Muamalat, we have fiqh of business transactions, we have family law, we have judicial system, and so on. We have many issues. So fiqh of finance of business transactions belongs to this section of Sharia, which is al-Muamalat. There is a beautiful rule that many scholars have supported, which says that all business transactions are permissible unless forbidden by revelation. الأصل في المعاملات الإباحة إلا إذا حرمت بنص. So which means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this universe for humans to enjoy and to use, but He excluded few items that are haram. So al-asl by default, everything is halal unless it is forbidden by revelation, by a text from the Quran or the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we come to something and we don't know if it is halal or haram, by default it should be halal. If someone comes and tells us that this is haram, then we have to tell him, you need to provide a proof. But if someone comes and introduces a new ibadah, by default it shouldn't be accepted. We tell him, hey, stop here. What is your proof? Because al-aslu fi al-ibadat al-tahrim. We are not supposed to come up with a new ibadat. We are not supposed to introduce new acts of worship into the deen. So every act of worship has to be supported by an evidence. But when it comes to transactions or business transactions or anything like that of that nature. If someone, مثلا, in any country, in United States or Canada or Russia or Europe or in Arab country, comes up with a transaction, we don't tell him right away it's haram because this is not found in the Quran or the Sunnah. We study, we look carefully. Does it include riba? Does it include gharar? Does it include a product that is not halal? So there we come up with a conclusion. So we don't rush into conclusion. We don't say this haram unless there is an evidence that it includes one of the basic prohibitions. So what are the basic prohibitions in fiqh of business? The first one is ban on riba. All types of usury are haram, and tonight we will talk about what is the nature of riba. And the second basic prohibition is al-gharar. It's called al-gharar in Arabic, or it's called uncertainty, al-jahala. Any transaction that includes a fundamental uncertainty. Uncertainty regarding the thaman, the price, or the product itself. But the ulama, they said, a small amount of gharar should be tolerated. I'll give you an example. If someone is, someone is got a car that needs some repair. He got some damage in his car, and he goes to the mechanic and tell him, I need this car to be fixed as soon as possible. Then the mechanic will look at it and say, okay, I'll fix it for you. Come back tomorrow, and it will be ready for you. How much? Oh, don't worry about it. We are friends, we know each other. احنا بنقول في اللغة العربية ما نختلف. It's okay, it's fine. Then the guy goes and comes back tomorrow, and then ask about the price, and the price is $500, and he'll be shocked. I didn't expect it to be this way. Then there will be a dispute between the two parties. Why? Because there is a gharar. The price was not stipulated, was not mentioned in the transaction. At least, the mechanic, maybe he doesn't know how much it will cost him, but he can give him a roughly. At least you should ask for a price. The range. What is the range? Between 400, 500, between 400 to 500. You have to have an idea before saying okay, because before telling him go ahead and do it. I know a friend of mine. He just have a car that needed. He had to change the door, passenger side door, I think. And then he went to the body shop, and I told him I need this door to be fixed and everything. He said, I will change it for you. I'll place another one. I'll paint it. Everything will be fine. How much? He said, oh, don't worry about it. And then he said, when I came back to him after 1 week, he said, 1,200. And I did not expect this price. So there was a dispute between the two of them. And and he ended up paying like 900 or 800. But this is a big difference here. So in Sharia, when you buy something, you have to know the price, and you have to know the description and the qualities of this product, what you are buying. But there is a small amount of gharar, uncertainty, that could be tolerated, and there is no way you can remove it. For example, someone who is coming to a farmer, comes to a farmer to buy some carrots, and all the carrots are in the soil, are in the ground. So tell him, I need to have an idea about these carrots, this product. I might take 1 or 2, but he cannot take all the carrots to show them to him. Or he's buying watermelon, a truck full of watermelon. He cannot open all the watermelon and show him if they are red, they are good, ready to be consumed. He cannot do that. But he can open 2 or 3 as a sample. So now you get an idea. But still, there is a gharar, there is uncertainty, because you didn't get an idea about the whole, quantity, the whole quantity of watermelon or carrots or vegetables. You didn't have a good, full, detailed idea about, the quality or the quality of this product. So this is this gharar could be tolerated in Sharia, and it's halal to do it this way. And the ulama, Rasulullah ﷺ has mentioned many types of gharar. We will talk about them when we talk about gharar, inshallah, when we do our series, our course in January and February. The third basic prohibition, they said prohibition against dealings with forbidden products. And the forbidden products are known: pork, alcohol, gambling, and so on. Anything that is haram. So these three basic prohibitions cover maybe between 80% to 90% of prohibited business transactions. There are some other transactions that are halal per se, but they could be, they could be made haram for another reason. Like someone is selling grapes, and a customer comes to him to buy some grapes, and he's sure, he's positively confident that this man is making wine with these grapes. Then it becomes haram for this merchant or this farmer to sell him his grapes, because he knows that this guy is making wine, so it's haram. But if he doesn't know that this guy is making wine, and he comes and buys grapes from him, and then after a while he discovers that his customer is making wine, then it's okay, it's fine, his transaction is halal because he didn't know. Or someone selling weapons and arms to a gang, or people who, criminals, or people who are fighting, like two groups of Muslims who are fighting with each other. This is a fitna. And he would sell one party weapons and arms. This is haram, even though selling weapons by itself is halal. But when it comes to selling to these kind of people who are killing other people or committing crimes, then the transaction becomes haram. It's not haram because of riba or gharar, or it includes anything that is prohibited, but because there is another, an external factor that made it haram. When it comes to riba in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has treated these subjects in 4 places in the Quran. So the first ayah that talked about riba, or that mentioned the word riba, is in Surah Al-Rum, and it was revealed during the Meccan period when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was in Mecca. وَمَا أَتَيْتُم مِّن رِبًا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُو عِندَ اللَّهِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and whatever riba you give so that it may increase in the wealth of people, it does not increase with Allah. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not reward you for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give you any reward for it. But this word of riba that is mentioned in this ayah in Surah Al-Rum, has 2 explanations. There is a group of scholars who said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant by the word riba here interest, the charging of interest. But the majority of scholars, they said no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mean the charging of interest. Rather, he meant that when someone gives a gift, when he's offering a gift with the intention of receiving something greater, or doing a favor to someone, helping him with someone, with the intention that the other person would help him when he's in need, or getting something in recompense. So the ulama, they said, majority of scholars, they believe that this is the meaning of the word riba in Surah Al-Rum. Based on this interpretation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not treat the subject of riba during the Meccan period, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was still in Mecca. Wallahu ta'ala. And there is here no halal or haram mentioned in this ayah. The second ayah was in Surah An-Nisa. It was revealed when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went to a city of Medina in the first year. And this ayah is talking about their habit or practice of charging interest. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ وَأَكْلِهِمْ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ. And this is in Surah An-Nisa 161. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and because of their charging riba, while they were prohibited from it. And this is in Ayat Surah An-Nisa, as I said, verse 161. So the message here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it haram for them to deal with riba, to deal with interest, and yet they are charging interest, they are dealing with riba. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not displeased with, is not pleased with them. But there is a hint here. There is no message that is sent to Muslims, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing the Muslims to accept this ruling, a new ruling. The same story, the same gradual process that took place when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade al-khamr, wine. He did not forbid al-khamr from day one. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forbade al-khamr through a gradual.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Because of the time constraint, I have to stop the video. It's very interesting because we need to continue and finish this slide. Okay, is everyone here? I will share.
Yes.
I will share the video with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue. We are running out of time. So we continue with general prohibitions in Muamalat contract. So riba is one of the major prohibitions in Muamalat. So what is the meaning of riba? Riba means excess, addition, or increase. So riba implies any extra compensation without due consideration, which means consideration does not include the time value of money. So this definition of riba is derived from the Quran, and all Islamic scholars have come to a consensus. So riba is any additions or excess. Allah says in the Quran, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa dharu ma baqiya minar riba in kuntum mu'minin." O you who believe, fear Allah, ittaqullah, and give up what remains of your demand for usury if you are indeed believers. Wa dharu ma baqiya minar riba. Give up. Give up وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَا. Give up what remains of your riba. So when Allah says, when Allah prohibits وَذَرُوا and give up, it means it is a haram, it is a prohibition, which carries the meaning of haram. So that means the riba is haram. And there are two types of riba. Riba al-buyu'. Okay, there are two types of riba al-buyu'. Riba al-buyu' means buyu' means trading. You are believe. Yeah. The scholars classify riba into two classifications: riba al-buyu' and riba ad-duyun. Riba al-buyu' is riba in sales, riba in trading, jual beli, sales and buying. And riba ad-duyun, riba related to debt, yeah, hutang. So there are two types of riba al-buyu', riba al-nasi'ah and riba al-fadl. Riba al-nasi'ah and riba al-fadl. What is riba al-nasi'ah? Salah hijau, wrong spelling in Arabic. Al-nasi'ah, sorry. Riba al-nasi'ah and riba al-fadl. What's the difference? When we talk about riba al-nasi'ah, it relates to the time period. Yeah. Okay, Allah mentions in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. All those who believe, fear Allah and give up what still remains in the riba if you are believers. But if you do not do so, then be warned of war from Allah and His Messenger. If you repent even now, you have the right to return. You have the right of the return of your capital. Neither will you do wrong, nor will you be wrong. So these verses indicate that riba means any excess compensation over and above the principal without due consideration. So for example, if I give a loan, 1,000, okay, and then I make a syarat, I make a condition that if I give you a loan of 1,000, you give me 1,200,
500.
1,200, for example. Then the 200 is the excess. In this case, it's riba. However, the Quran has not altogether forbidden all types of excess, as it is present in the trade as well, which is permissible. Allah says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا in another verse. And Allah permits trade, yeah, وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ, and Allah permits trading, وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا, and Allah forbids riba. So in trade, for example, using the concept of murabaha, okay, or bai'ul musawama, or other types of trade, the excess is permissible. It's called profit. Okay, I sell something, okay, which I bought for 100, okay, and then I sell 120 ringgit. So the 20 ringgit is called murabaha, yeah, murabaha, which is allowed. So trade is allowed. The excess that has been rendered haram in the Quran is a particular type termed as riba. Islam has categorically made a clear distinction between the excess in capital resulting from sale and excess resulting from interest. So excess resulting from loan called interest or riba is haram. However, the excess or the profit, okay, when there is a trade, buying and selling, this is halal. So because Allah says wa halallahu al-bai'a wa harrama riba. So the excess in trade is halal, yeah, it's called profit, and the excess in loan is called riba, is haram. Number two is riba ad-duyun. Riba related to debt, means lending and borrowing. Okay, let me mute all. Okay, so riba ad-duyun is riba in lending and borrowing. Interest earned on lending money to another party, or interest paid on borrowing money from another party. This riba appears in debts. In Arabic, duyun. Duyun is a plural of dain. Dainun, duyunun. In English, debt, hutang, lending and borrowing. So the interest appears in debt, or duyun, plural of dainun, as a percentage or a fixed amount added to the principal of debt or aslud dain. So this is called riba ad-duyun. I loan 100 and I require that the borrower pay back 120, so 20%. So the excess in excess of the principal of 100, the 20% or the 20 ringgit is riba, which is haram, and it's called riba ad-duyun. So riba ad-duyun is the most commonplace and most debated types of riba. In general, riba ad-duyun is any excess or additional benefit charged or paid as a consideration in lending or borrowing transaction. Sharia strictly prohibits all types and all sources of riba, including riba ad-duyun. There are two types of riba ad-duyun. Number one, riba al-qard, and number two, riba al-jahiliyah. Riba al-qard refers to the riba associated with lending and borrowing that is received in lending or paid in borrowing, like the example that I mentioned. It is a type of riba that constitutes an excess amount over and above the principal. Aslul qard, 100, for example, is the principal, and the excess is 20 ringgit. So 20 ringgit is riba. Riba ul qard. A borrower pays to the lender along with the principal based on a precondition in the contract or akad or customary uruf. Okay, so the lender gives a loan of 100, the borrower gives back 120. So the 20 ringgit is the riba. Riba ul qard also constitutes any excess amount paid for the extension of a loan's maturity date. For example, someone cannot pay during a stipulated time. For example, 1 month. Okay, you gave back 120 in 1 month. Then, if you cannot pay within the stipulated time, you need to pay another 20 ringgit, mathalan, for example. Then it is also riba ul qard. The majority of fuqaha, jumhur al-fuqaha, consensus that riba in this sense holds the same meaning as the conventional notion of interest. In conventional finance, it is interest on loans in conventional finance. It is also alternatively referred to riba un-nasa, or riba un-nasi'ah. However, any excess amount or consideration or reward given by a debtor out of his own accord and without the compulsion of a contractual stipulation or custom is not equivalent to riba. Still, it is husnul qada, that is willingly offered by the borrower. For example, Dr. Sufyan lend me 100 ringgit, okay? And he says, okay, Dr. Yusuf, you need to pay me 100 ringgit 1 month from today, 30 days from today. You just give me back 100 ringgit. I don't want any more than 100 ringgit, okay? Then, and then within the time, within 30 days, okay, I transfer back to Dr. Sufyan. I transfer 120 ringgit. And then Dr. Sufyan said, no, I don't want 120 ringgit. I just want 100 ringgit. I said, okay, 20 ringgit, although you don't ask me to pay, but I'm going to give you the 20 ringgit as what? It's called husnul qada, because I appreciate that he gave me 100 ringgit when I was in trouble, when I didn't have money to buy any food. So I might die because I'm poor. I don't have money. So I give 20 ringgit as a personal qada. So that is allowed, and that is not riba, because Dr. Sufyan did not make it compulsory for me to pay. So it's my own consideration or my own iwad. Okay. Any question? And then we have riba al-jahiliyah. Okay, riba al-jahiliyah is a type of riba that was commonplace during the jahiliyah time. The jahiliyah times mean the time before the Islam came, before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was appointed as Rasul. That was the jahiliyah time. So before the coming of Islam, riba al-jahiliyah constituted a penalty. So there exists riba al-jahiliyah. Riba al-jahiliyah constituted a penalty imposed on delinquent debt repayment or default, where lenders used to double the amount of debt outstanding if the borrower does not make the payment on time. So that is called riba al-jahiliyah. If the borrower cannot make the payment on time, then the lender will impose another type of additional payment. Okay, because of the failure of the borrower to pay on time. So in today's world, it's called the compounded interest. Yeah. So this is a riba al-jahiliyah, a type of additional penalty imposed when the borrower cannot pay the debt on a stipulated time. Okay, any question you can post in the box. Okay. Bututi asks, Prof, will the material be sent to us through group as well as the video? Yes. After the lecture, I will send. We are running short of time now. I'm struggling to finish this.
Yeah, Prof. I keep waiting until finish, Prof.
Okay. Number one is prohibition of riba. Number two is prohibition of gharar. Okay. What is gharar? Gharar literally means uncertainty. Technically, gharar is uncertainty and ignorance of the contracting parties over substances or the merchandise or the attributes of the object of sale. We call the specification of the object or sales, or doubt over its existence and availability at the time of the contract. So gharar is uncertainty about the goods and services, the merchandise, or the specification of the merchandise, and whether the merchandise exists or not. We talk about the gold trading now, but we don't have time to go into it. So there is an element of gharar in the gold trading that people have practiced, and it's trending now. Many people ask me about the gold trading, whether it is halal or haram. I think I will make a video about it, and I don't have time to elaborate in detail. It takes time. Regarding gold trading, there are two situations. One, it involves gharar, and the other one, it doesn't involve gharar. And there are special conditions that have to be met. All right. Ibn Qayyim also said, gharar is a sale in which the vendor is not in a position to hand over the subject matter to the buyer, whether the subject matter is in existence or not.
No.
That is also called gharar. Dr.
Prof.
Wahbah Az-Zuhaili.
Prof,
Yes.
macam nak tahu juga lah, macam trading gold tadi dah cerita sikit ke?
Okay.
Macam tak boleh tidur malam lah. Apa dia?
Okay.
Okay.
Cakap bahasa English kan? Bagi orang lain faham kan? Okay. In gold trading, the seller will sell gold in certain amount. You can buy the gold in any amount that you like. Okay, so it's called units. It's called units or it's called blocks. You can buy a certain unit or a certain blocks of gold, and you are given a certificate with the serial number. Okay, so for example, you buy 1/10 of this block, for example, then you got the serial number. Serial number is the proof that you have the ownership over the gold. Okay, now, does gharar exist or not in this case? Okay, gharar does not exist in this case if you can go to the gold seller and show your certificate, and the seller says, good, Dr. Sufyan, show me the certificate. Dr. Sufyan will show the certificate. The seller says, okay, I will go and get the gold in a box and then give it to you. Then there is no gharar. Okay, because the seller can hand in the gold, having the certificate on the spot. However, gharar exists if, for example, Dr. Sufyan have the gold certificate, right, with serial number, go to the buyer, sorry, go to the seller, the gold seller, okay. Dr. Sufyan says, I want my gold now. This is my gold certificate. And then most of the times, the seller will say, Dr. Sufyan, you cannot do that. You have to fill the form. You have to give us 3 days, which means the gold is not in existence. The seller will have to buy the gold and then give it to the buyer. So that is a problem with regards to the gold trading. There's more into it, but I'll make a video on that later.
Prof, maybe you can make TikTok also.
Oh my God, I don't know how to make TikTok.
Dr. Sufyan expert on it.
Maybe I'll make a video, Dr. Sufyan, convert it into TikTok and make it viral. because now there are many companies selling gold, and it involves gharar, although the company claims that there is no gharar. But actually there is gharar if the seller wants the gold instantly with the certificate, and the seller needs time. Then that means what? The gold is not in existence at that time. So that is gharar. If the gold is there, then there's no problem. There is no gharar. Okay. So let's continue. Oh, I'm struggling to finish. I will try my best. Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, verse 29.
Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. O you who believe, devour not your property. La ta'kulu amwalakum. Jangan memakan harta kamu bainakum antara kamu bil batil, dengan cara yang salah. O you who believe, devour not your property among yourselves by unlawful means, bil batil, except that it be trading by your mutual consent. The scholars, fuqaha, classify gharar into two types: gharar yasir and gharar fahish. Gharar yasir is minor gharar, minor uncertainty. Yasir means minor, small. This type of gharar is acceptable and does not affect the validity of the contract. So if there is gharar yasir, yeah, in any akad, then the akad is valid. Yeah, it is acceptable and the akad is valid. For example, the error spelling in the contract can change the contract's content and still comply with the Sharia rules. For example, in the contract or akad, there is a small minor spelling. So that is called gharar yasir. The second gharar is gharar fahish. It's a major gharar, major uncertainty. This type of gharar makes the akad void and null, invalid. Okay, and uncertainty affects the contract's essential elements. We have one PhD student who is doing PhD on gharar yasir and gharar fahish, because in reality sometimes is ambiguous. Which one is gharar yasir? Which one is gharar fahish? Although in books, in theory, it's clear, but in reality, it's not as easy as it seems. Okay, next. Prohibition of qimar and maisir. Qimar includes every form of acquisition of wealth or money which depends purely on luck and chance. That is called qimar. And maisir means gambling. Islam has also categorically prohibited any forms of gambling. Any elements, any transaction that involves elements of gambling and qimar is prohibited. Maisir refers to the easy acquisition of wealth by chance, whether or not it deprives the others right. Hamid, 2009, defines maisir as gambling. Also, any form of business activity where monetary gains are derived from mere chance, speculation, or conjecture. Allah says in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. And also Allah says in the Quran, okay, number 4, prohibition of fraud and deception. Fraud and deception, unfortunately, are very common nowadays in trading in sales, in other forms of muamalah. It's, people, when they are desperate, they they resort to fraud. They resort to deception. So fraud or deception is a trick practiced by one of the parties to induce a person to contract without which he would not have entered it. So that is called fraud and deception. Persuasion or trick to induce or to persuade another person to a contract without which we would not have entered it. Allah says in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, verse 1 through 6. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون ألا يظن أولئك أنهم مبعوثون ليوم عظيم يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. Woe to those that deal in fraud, those who, when they have to receive by measure from men, exact full measure, but when they have to give by measure or weight to men, give less than due. Do they not think that they will be called to account on a mighty day, a day when all humankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds? So that is called fraud. Okay, and last is prohibition of dealings with haram items. Okay, haram items, there are many, including pork, alcohol, any items that are haram. Bahasa Inggeris ni payah sikit. Pork, arak, alcoholic beverages, judi, gambling, and many other haram items, right? So any haram items cannot be sold and cannot be traded. The aqad is invalid. Any haram items, including an-najasat. An-najasat, bahasa Melayu najis, barang-barang najis. Bahasa Inggeris apa? Help me out. Anything that is considered as an-najasat, an-najis. Tahi burung, tahi ayam, benda-benda najis, so also called also cannot be traded. Okay, benda najis cannot be traded. Nak cakap English tak apa nak sampai. Dia nak jual teh ayam. Nak jual teh ayam. Boleh nak jual teh ayam. Teh ayam tak boleh, tak sah untuk dibuat sebagai akad. Sebab dia najis. Okay.
Prof, can I ask?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I cannot.
Okay, well, and just what are some of the examples given by some scholars of that time? What constituted an najas then? Because I think lately with technology and trying to reduce the carbon emissions, creating electricity and all that, you may find that some items that constituted an najas then could be traded lately. That's my thinking. If we could get what it was then, and then we relate to what it could be now, then we could get. what it is.
Very, very good question, Mr. Hamza. It's a big issue. For example, in the microphone, right? For example, in the microphone, there is an element of an-najasat, right? So and then there was research done to determine whether that item, I don't know the scientific, is an-najasat or not. So there has to be studies. There has to be studies. So the National Fatwa Council, from time to time, they review the items that are considered as an-najas. So, like you said, there are certain items that used to be called an-najas, but now it's no longer called an-najas. For example, alcohol that we use as a sanitizer, right? It is alcohol, right? Originally, alcohol is considered as an-najas. But after the research was done, it was found that alcohol in perfume, alcohol in sanitizer is produced chemically. It's produced using certain chemical process. Yeah, and the contemporary fatwa have made a ruling that any alcohol produced using certain chemical process is not an-najas. So alcohol in perfume, in hairspray, and in sanitizer, and in other products, as long as they are produced using this I don't know how to say, using chemical process, using chemical process, is ruled as not an-najas. So it is clear now. So you can have the perfume which contains alcohol, and you can wipe your hand with sanitizer contains alcohol, and you can still pray because it's not an-najas. So that means these items can be traded. So I agree with you that there are still studies on certain products about whether they are an-najas or not.
Okay, because there's an interesting example here in Uganda, where marijuana, the green
Marijuana.
weed. Yes, so here it is illegal to grow it in your garden, in your area, and if you're found, they can take you to police and all the legal action. But again, locally, people use the same weed to treat chicken. Is it called ayam?
Ayam.
Yeah, chicken. Whenever they find, and it works, because locally most of our settlements here, it's around 80% rural people live in rural areas, so they don't have access to all those chemical well-equipped medicines for their birds, the chicken. So people grow and use the same marijuana. So when the police comes, they tell the police, now we are growing this to treat the birds. And then police would leave them. But again, the youth, it will come and steal the same weed and smoke it. So at times it becomes difficult to judge, because we get some alim who say, okay, let you leave them to grow it for the birds. But again, where it is grown, you find very many the juvenile, the youth, are consuming it and are becoming a problem to the society. So then the question comes: should we sacrifice the birds and then we burn the whole process of growing the wheat, or we know? So it's an example that comes with the Sharia judgment and all that. That is interesting. I wanted to share with you.
Yes. So regarding marijuana, we have to find out whether marijuana or the weed itself is a najas or not. So that's the first thing. Is the weed or marijuana is a najas or not? In Uganda, is it a najas or not?
It is.
It is
It
not
is
legal.
regarded.
It is not legal, but is it a najas? A najas means something that if it is attached to the body, you cannot pray, right? So that's the meaning of an-najas.
But I see when they smoke it, people who smoke it, when you see them by even their looks, you cannot get close to him, and even mentally, there are times when they cannot be considered sober.
Okay.
It has some mental implication.
Okay.
Bad implication.
Regarding marijuana, this is my opinion. Marijuana itself is not an-najas. However, the question is, can you sell marijuana or not? Okay. If you are sure marijuana is sold and the buyers will make marijuana as a medicine, right? Then the akad is valid. But if you are positive, you are sure that the weed or the marijuana that you sold to the buyer will make it into something that will harm people. You know, the weed or the marijuana. Okay, hold on. The weed or the marijuana, if people smoke, it will make if people smoke marijuana, what are the effects? The people who smoke marijuana will feel high, will feel like drunk, and this will cause harm. Then in this case, although marijuana in itself is not it's not a najas. It's not a najas. However, it is prohibited to sell marijuana to those people who will convert it into drug, into drug. To drug means they will sell marijuana, they will dry marijuana, and then people will smoke, right? Will smoke and harm their body. In that case, this is haram. So the akad itself is not valid. So that's another point. So even though the merchandise in itself is not an-najas, it's not haram, but if the merchandise sold to the buyer and the seller knows for sure, the seller is positive that the merchandise is going to be used to harm people, then it is haram to sell the merchandise. For example, you sell arms, right? Guns, guns, pistols. Okay. to those people that you know, what do you call, to gangster, or the gun will be used to rob a bank, right? Then it is haram for you to sell the gun. Okay, the gun itself is not haram, right? It's a protective measure. Okay. So, or another example, knife. Okay. You there is one buyer who want to buy your knife. For example, you are a knife maker. Your job is to make knife, right? But if you know that the knife will be used by that buyer to go and rob another people, then it is haram for you to sell the knife to that person. However, if you sell the knife to, makcik, to this house, to this, what do you call, to the lady, for them to cut chili, to cut onions, then it is okay. It's not haram. So that's another thing. The buyer also, in some cases, need to be sure what is the purpose of the item that you sell to be used for. If it is used in the activity of haram, then the aqad itself is invalid. Okay, I want to show you another thing. Last slide. Okay, I know all of you are very tired. I just want to show you one last slide. Okay, I want to share you this last slide. To answer a question by Mr. Masri at the beginning of this workshop, right now, the general public are confused about certain rulings which one to follow, which ustaz to follow. This ustaz says one thing, the other ustaz says another thing. This mufti says one thing, the other mufti says a different thing. So who has the authority? Who to follow? Okay. In matters related to muamalat and related to Islamic banking and finance, in Malaysia, the highest authority is the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia, our central bank. In general, for Islamic banking and finance, there is a Sharia advisory, and the status of Sharia advisory is higher than the status of Mufti in relation to Islamic banking and finance. Okay, so if you have dispute, then you refer to Sharia advisory. Okay, and throughout the world, the highest authority in Islamic finance in the world is IOF. Okay. What is IOF? AAOIFS. AAOIFI. IOF. What is IOF? IOF is Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. Okay, so this is the highest authority. So throughout the world, in matters of dispute, in matters of ambiguity regarding the rulings, then experts throughout the world refers to IOF. And IOF has produced hundreds of Sharia standards regarding diverse Islamic finance products. Okay. In Malaysia, we have Sharia Advisory Council. Okay. So in Islamic finance, we need Sharia advisory. Sharia advisory in the Islamic banking and finance system is necessary. This group is the highest level of reference. Okay, this group, Sharia advisory, is the highest level of reference to Islamic banking and finance practices and products in Malaysia. According to Assoc 2009, the Sharia Supervisory Board is part of the internal governance structure of IFI, Islamic Financial Institution. In any IFI, they have Sharia Supervisory Board. Now they changed the name. Now they changed the name to Sharia Committee. Sharia Committee. Jawatankuasa Sharia. They used to call Sharia Supervisory Board. Now they call it Sharia Committee Board. For any banks, they must have Sharia Committee. Jawatankuasa Sharia. And this Sharia Committee Sharia Committee is part of the internal governance structure of an Islamic financial institution, for example, bank or Tabung Haji or any Islamic financial institution. And this Sharia Committee is appointed by shareholders of the institution, of the Islamic finance institution. Its primary function is to review and ensure that all transactions, contracts, products, and applications relating to Islamic financial institutions comply with Sharia rules and principles according to specific fatwa, rulings, and guidelines that have been issued. To establish a good corporate governance framework, the Sharia Committee may have to extend its jurisdiction to cover governance issues of this nature. Okay. Through Sharia governance framework in the Islamic financial institutions, Bank Negara Malaysia, our central bank, has established the Sharia Advisory Council, SAC. SAC is under Bank Negara, the central bank of Malaysia. So SAC is the party with the highest authority for Malaysia's Islamic banking and financial system. So any rulings regarding transactions, okay, gold trading, forex, anything, the rulings must be in accordance with the rulings by SAC, Sharia Advisory Committee. Sharia Advisory Committee has higher authority than National Fatwa Foundation, National Fatwa Council. Okay, let me repeat. SAC, Sharia Advisory Council, has higher authority than National Fatwa Council. Okay, dia ada authority yang lebih tinggi daripada Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan. Jadi, if there is a conflict between SAC and National Fatwa Council, then we have to follow Sharia Advisory Council. Okay. Sometimes, you know, in YouTube, I hear this Ustaz say this Ustaz say this Mufti says this. I don't strictly accept. I will check with the SAC if the matter is related to Islamic finance and muamalat. So in matters related to Islamic finance and muamalat, remember SAC has the highest authority in Malaysia, and in other countries maybe they have their own Sharia Advisory Council. I'm not sure in Indonesia, but in Western countries they follow IOFI. Okay, they follow IOFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. So that must be very clear. And let me repeat. IOFI in the context of the world and Sharia Advisory Council in the context of Malaysia takes into account all the four madhabs. Okay, they take into account all the four madhabs. Okay, and the rulings is based on which opinions are the best. The best means practical and bring the highest maslahah. Okay. So the SAC function is indispensable in Islamic banking system. This SAC is indispensable. Is cannot do without. Yeah? Cannot do without. So it's very important because it's not just to approve a financial product in line with Sharia, but also to ensure that the operation of Islamic financial institution also is under the requirements of Sharia. I think that's all I want to share for today. Inshallah, in the next class, Ustaz Abdul Hadi Yusuf will be with you. I'm just a last-minute replacement. So I've tried my best to share with you the basics of Fiqh Muamalat, because we are all in Islamic banking and finance. Whether you are a master's student or PhD student in Islamic banking and finance, you need to understand the basic of Fiqh Muamalat. So that's why it is a prerequisite for those who do not have a background in Muamalat and Islamic finance. So I will share with you the slide, the video, and the textbooks in Fiqh Muamalat that you can read further. Okay. And yeah, I think I've tried my best. Hopefully it will be beneficial as a starter to all of you.
Yeah.
And I apologize, I have to speak in English because to accommodate the students who are not able to understand Bahasa Melayu. So I also have trouble to explain in English because I studied Fiqh Muamalat in Bahasa. So before we stop, I'd like to remind you that there will be exam after the last class. So please try to understand. The exam is not that difficult, but you have to understand. You have to come to class and understand, and it should be all right. It's an open book. The questions are in English. The exam is 1 hour. You can answer in English or Bahasa.
When, Prof?
Because we understand English and Bahasa.
Yeah.
But the requirement is all the classes are in English, and the exams are the questions are in English, but the answers can be in Bahasa. Okay, any questions before
No, thanks, Prof.
we end? Please, any question?
Doctor, the assessment will be on the third week or another time. Assessment
I think you have to ask Ustaz Hadi. He will write the question, and he will conduct the exam. So next class, Ustaz Hadi will take over. So I'm just a last minute replacement for this class. So he cannot be with us today because he has some other commitment. What I know is a 1 hour exam is supposed to be done in the last hour of class. Okay, so the third week you have 3 hours, right? On Saturday, 2 to 5. Maybe the exam is from 4 to 5.
Okay.
Not today, the last class.
Okay.
on
If I-
27,
you,
yeah,
Prof.
Prof.
It's
That will be 27, yeah, Prof.
yeah, I think it's a short question, short answer type of question.
Doctor, they have the mark passing on the assessment.
I'm not really sure about that. I'm not really sure about that. Yeah, there is no grade. There is no grade. That one I know. No A, B, or C. Just pass or fail. But what's the mark for passing? That one I'm not sure.
Okay, never mind.
You can ask Dr. Tahir. Dr. Tahir is the organizer for this workshop.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone pass your Prof.
Yeah.
I think they say everyone will pass. as long as you know you attend the class, attendance is compulsory. So for today's attendance, everybody attend. So you pass. And then for the final exam, I would say that don't worry too much. The questions should not be difficult. The questions should be basic questions because this is prerequisite. But let me remind you that please please answer the questions in your own words. No copy paste, because we give you the handouts. We check for copy paste. We give you the handouts. Don't copy paste because that is very bad. That means if you copy paste, you have no effort. You just write in your own words, try your best. We just want to know how much you understand. We don't expect a perfect answer. No answer is perfect. If I answer my own question, I would not even get 100. So there's no such thing as perfect answer. But if you try your best, we will pass all of you.
Inshallah.
Okay. Any questions from master student? I'm worried about master student.
Okay, right now.
Can you follow? I will share the slide, the textbook, and the video. For the video, I'm worried. You know,
Prof, can I leave, Prof?
Yeah, yes, you can leave. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the sharing this evening. Have a nice weekend with the family, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Tuti.
Yeah.
We are about to end our session.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. See you next week.
I will try to share the video, but I'm not sure how to share the video in the WhatsApp. I know how to share in Telegram. In WhatsApp, sometimes it cannot. So I will try. Anybody knows how to share video using WhatsApp? Or anybody has a Telegram? I will send to your Telegram and you share to the WhatsApp group.
Dalam di Google Classroom tu boleh masukkan ke, Prof?
Oh, mungkin boleh ke tu?
Letak video dalam Google Classroom.
Oh, mungkin boleh.
Download betul lah.
I will try. Ya. Ya, Encik Nizamuddin. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. Ya, Prof.
Sudah PhD kan?
Bukan.
Sudah master?
Ya, Prof.
Oh, saya tak pernah jumpa pula. Tak perasan.
Dah 2 sem dengan Prof.
Oh, sebab online kan?
Ya.
Kadang-kadang tak buka muka kan, tak perasan. Okay, so anyway, kelas kita akan start bila? Yes. 4 hari bulan 9, 4 bulan 9 insyaAllah. Okay. So untuk master student boleh register subjek Islamic Capital Market dan research methodology. Kalau siapa yang minta exemption daripada research methodology, tak payah register lah research methodology. Tapi kalau hadir research methodology tu bagus, sebab kelas research tu dia research ni belajar research ni tak habis-habis. Saya mula mengajar research pada tahun 93 untuk degree. Untuk master mulai 2014. Untuk PhD mulai 2016. Saya rasa macam tak habis-habis Dr. Sufian. Kalau research ni kalau ikut tak rugi kan. Kadang ada benda-benda baru.
Betul. Dia tak habis-habis. Sentiasa ada benda baru kan.
Oh, saya dah lama mengajar pun rasa macam kadang-kadang banyak benda tak tahu lagi. Itu kira kita duk mengajar lama kan. So nanti jumpa semua dalam kelas research lah. InsyaAllah saya akan ajar research method lah untuk student PhD dan student master. Jumpa di sana lah 4 bulan September. Untuk saya duk cadang nak cari satu masa lah sebelum kita start kelas research tu. Untuk student master ni nak jumpa you all semua untuk kita bincangkan tentang initial proposal. Sebelum masuk kelas master tu, kelas research tu, elok kita dah ada idea tentang apa yang kita nak buat kan. Jadi kalau boleh buat simple proposal dan saya akan bagi dia punya template. Saya akan bagi dia punya template dan template tu tak perlu ikut 100%. Ikut je dekat mana boleh. Nak tengok tajuk dan macam mana plan anda semua untuk buat research. Sebab untuk kelas research ni saya nak bimbing supaya setiap pelajar akan dapat menulis at least chapter 1, chapter 2 dan chapter 3. Chapter 1, 2 and 3. Master's dissertation ada 5 chapter. At least selepas habis research method ni dah siap dengan chapter 1 to 3. Okay, last question. Semua orang dah letih tak sembahyang asar lagi ni. Before we end, last question.
Tak ada Prof. Terima kasih Prof.
Okey, sama-sama. Kalau tak ada, itu saja kelas untuk hari ini. Terima kasih semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you everybody.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Terima kasih.
Bye.